Good morning, everybody, to the June meeting of the Library Board. I think we have our entire board present via Zoom, and it looks like we have at least a few people sitting in the library, which is great. Our first order on the agenda is to approve the minutes of our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May meeting?
Oh, Grace is muted.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second, please?
I'll second. Grace seconds.
Any conversation? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Peter, I don't think we adopted the agenda.
I apologize. Can we all adopt the agenda, please? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll so move.
All right, thank you. And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Sorry about that, in reverse order. I'll get it right one of these years. Do we have any public comment? Anybody who is on Zoom would like to raise their hand through the feature on Zoom? Please do. What is our Zoom administrator seeing?
I am not seeing anyone's raising their hand, so.
Correspondence? We have none. Moving on to the library financial information, the staff report. Capital Reserve Fund allocation.
Okay, in the current fiscal year budget, we appropriated $149,535. I don't know how we arrived at that number, but that is what was in the budget. So realizing we have not done that transfer from operating funds to the capital reserve fund, we need to do so before the end of the fiscal year. So you have a staff report there that explains that, and all we need is a motion to complete that.
So why don't I make the motion, and if there's any conversation about it, we can have it after it's been duly seconded. I will move to approve the allocation of $149,535 to the Library Capital Reserve Fund from the Library County Reimburse Operations Account as approved in the fiscal year 22 budget. Do I have a second to that motion?
I would second.
Thank you, Sean. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And I would add that in July, the next fiscal year, we did appropriate $150,000 to this fund. Instead of waiting till the end of the year, I will put that in the July meeting so we can get that taken care of right off the bat.
Well, we must have found $465 of interest somewhere to round up.
Yes.
Super. So Stella, do you want to do the financial narrative, or does anybody have questions for Stella on the financial narrative? I have one, but I'll let others get in front of me. While people are thinking, Stella, it says you're thinking about switching to Excel from QuickBooks, and you've made the comment that some of the operating reports that are used are not available if we're using Excel. Could you tell us what those are and what we'll be losing in those reports?
Sure. So for example, you wouldn't have the profit and loss statements. We could figure out a way certainly to the reports. So some of the standard QuickBooks reports would not be, available in Excel. There would be another method whereby we would provide you with information. So for example, the balance sheet wouldn't look the same and so forth. So we're still kind of mulling it over one of the options we could look at is, it seems that our current QuickBooks that we're paying for through Intuit, I believe is like the top tier.
Right.
And so certainly I want to explore, maybe it would be, that we don't need that top tier product, but maybe a lower tier would get us at a better price point so that we could retain QuickBooks. Alyssa Watkins did share with Kip a spreadsheet that her department uses to track everything. And so I want to explore a little bit more in depth some of the formulas that they're using on that Excel worksheet to really decide which avenue we want to take. We also looked at an online product that kind of mimics QuickBooks a little bit more, but I don't think that is the best route for us. So I've rolled out the free online product.
Well, my concern here would be, it's a valuable tool to be able to look back 3 to 4 years in terms of budgets and compare how we're doing on numbers. And so to the extent that it is going to be more challenging and perhaps more work to go away from QuickBooks and then recreate it so it's an apples to apples. We're a $4 million operation. And so it doesn't bother me personally that we're spending $7,000 on QuickBooks and there may be some savings there. Do we have the site license to allow us to use the Microsoft products currently in the capacity of taking over for our finances?
Yes, we do pay with the county. We do pay an annual Microsoft licensing fee. So, but QuickBooks just automatically, I want to say just about a month or two ago. So we do have some time to think about it. Of course, ideally, if we were going to change, we'd want to change we'd want to start off the new fiscal year with the change. So I think at this point, we might be leaning towards sticking with QuickBooks, but then again, when we get closer to the renewal point, maybe downgrading to a lower product in terms of what we need here, especially because we're not using the payroll feature anymore. So I think that another product within QuickBooks, we might have a better solution there.
Well, you spent quite a lot of time learning QuickBooks, and Mary is as well, I assume, or she comes in with some history on it. So my gut, I don't know what the rest of the board feels. My gut is there's a lot of benefit to being able to look at past records and have them match exactly what we're doing now, but we'll see.
I would agree with that, and I would add that the county's OpenGov software, once we have some years of experience using that, it does track your previous years. I believe it goes back 3 years. It retains 3 years of financial data. We only have a few months of data in OpenGov. And the other departments, because of how their accounting has been done, they have at least 1 year of information already available to them. So it's also just a matter of time.
Thank you. Does anybody else have questions for Stella?
I do, Peter.
Yes, Dale.
I'd just like to agree with you that I think there are some real advantages to QuickBooks in terms of the historical record, as well as the fact that it is a real standard for information. And I think clarity in terms of our finances and timeliness is extremely important. I know we've been struggling with it because we've had a lot of changes, but I would urge us not to be penny wise and pound foolish in terms of the expense of QuickBooks. And I like your idea, Stella, that we might be able to get by with not quite so complicated a version, but I don't have any problems paying for it if it's going to make it more clear, both for the board, the staff, the public, And it is a standard. A lot of people are familiar with it. So there's that. That's a real advantage. So I'd just like to come down on your side, Peter.
Okay.
I think you both made very good points about that. Because of our shift to the county, our bookkeeping is internal only and will not be the official accounting record for the auditor. So downgrading QuickBooks to the basics is probably within reason.
And my suggestion also would be that, if we go down the road and want to get a grant or ask the foundation or do a little campaign around bringing our historical records into the whatever new system we evolve to, that's something that we can do in a time when the library is less pressed for staff, and which I don't know when that is, but
It's coming. Sure.
it's coming at some point in time. Yes.
I would jump in to say I agree completely with Dale's comments, and I think the only thing that we might want to consider is, how robust are the export functions of QuickBooks, and if we can, if we decide we do want to go away from it, how granular will that data be, and how will we be able to present it in a way that's familiar to both kind of financial people and anyone else who needs to look at it. But as Dale said, it's kind of a known quantity, and even though there's a barrier to entry in terms of learning it, I think there's great value in sticking with it.
Okay. Nina, do you have anything to add to this, what seems like heated agreement? Okay. Moving off of the financial narrative, if there aren't any more questions on that, to the documents themselves, the balance sheet, P&L, and the revenue report. Are there any questions that are arising from those documents? If there are none, I think we actually have to approve these financials. Do we not?
Yes, they used to be under the consent agenda.
Yeah.
And we approved them as part of that, but we have to approve them individually. if they're
Peter,
not.
can you hear us now?
Perfectly.
We went silent for a second. Something happened here. So we've missed everything since Sean has talked.
Sorry. So I just asked if there was any, well, we moved on from the financial narrative. I don't know if anybody heard me do that. And I just asked if there were any questions about the financial documents, the balance sheet, the expanded P&Ls, or the county revenue report and the expenditure report. And I heard none, which might just be the fact that we didn't have any communication.
I think it was just us.
Okay. Are there any questions on the financial documents themselves? Everybody wave if you can hear me, I guess.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. All right, super. Thank you. All right, hearing none, we do have to, this is traditionally been part of the consent agenda, but we've isolated it. May I have a motion to approve the financials for May?
I'll so move.
Thank you. I will second it. Any discussion, questions? Yes, Grace?
So did Kip just say that they're all up now on the
Yeah.
Dropbox?
Yes, they've been up since last night.
Well, I saw. Oh, you're right. I did see them all. I thought there were some that were missing. I've seen them all. Pardon me.
going forward, it's a bit concerning that the county's expense report was not made available until late Tuesday. So
Right.
that's why the financials are late. So I worry that our meetings are going to sometimes be too early for us to have timely financial information. Because we do have to go in and balance the county's expense report in QuickBooks.
Mhm.
And so that's why they were so late.
Well,
And I don't know how we rectify that.
well, we can do that by setting by resolution in July. We can look at whether Thursday is the right day to have this meeting, and perhaps push it into the fourth week. There's nothing magic, and we have flexibility now. Now that we've
Right.
had, I think of the last 4 months, we've had challenges in 3 of the 4 months. So I understand the pressure you guys feel, and that's not fair to anybody.
Thank you. There was a second piece to Stella's financial narrative, which was to transfer the staff report to transfer $18,000 from the library's materials budget to the state library so that we do not lose access to those funds.
I'm sorry, right, it was not in there. It was in there as a motion, but it was buried. I'm sorry.
There were a number of reasons why we haven't expended the whole collections budget this year. We did in subscriptions to 2 very expensive online databases and issues around the selection staff being fully staffed and just the publishing situation the way it is with things being delayed. So that's why we want to preserve those funds and transfer those over.
Right. I'm sorry yeah, I apologize. There was a motion buried in there and I didn't do that. So let's do that first. Kip, could you read the motion for everybody, please?
Yes, please. I move Peter moves to approve the transfer of $18,000 to the library's account with the state library. Funds will be allocated as such: $6,000 to Jackson Books, $3,000 to Alta Books, $6,000 to Jackson Media, and $3,000 to Alta Media.
Thank you. That is exactly what I was going to say.
I thought so.
Have a second to that motion, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dale. Any further discussion?
I have just a general question. What else is in the library's account with the state? I didn't know that our library had an account with the state.
I'll let Stella go ahead.
We've had an account with the state for many, many years. Currently, we have, I believe it's about 43 cents in our account, but in the past, at various points, typically at the end of the fiscal year, if it looks like there's going to be an overage.
I can't understand.
Yeah, Stella,
I don't think we can understand her.
Yeah.
Can't hear.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
The library has had an account with the state library for a number of years. We currently have 43 cents on account with the state. And what going forward, as we lose access to FM Pro, we will be having the state handle a lot of our incoming invoices for books. So we're going to be transferring a good portion of our materials budget to the state, where they will manage it and pay the invoices for us. A number of libraries in the state use that service.
Do they get a better pricing than we do?
We get a 0.5% difference or something on materials, and it saves us all the paperwork of having to process hundreds of invoices every month for Ingram and Midwest tape.
Beautiful.
And they don't charge us for it. And funds carry over from year to year, unlike our operating budget. So that's one of the advantages as well.
Thank you.
So are there any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion?
Peter, did we vote? I'm sorry, I'm having some problems with my Zoom. Did we vote to approve the financial documents?
No, I went back for this because I had missed this in the narrative. So I'm
Okay.
call for a motion to approve the financial documents, please.
Okay,
I
I think
would so
I had
move.
made the motion and you had seconded to do that.
All right, well, thank you. Is there any further discussion on the financial documents? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Sorry, guys, about my disjointed nature this morning. I don't mean to. Director's report.
Okay. Pretty quiet director's report this month. The one thing I would mention again is staffing. At the time this report was written, we only had 3 or so vacancies in the part-time library assistant category. I learned yesterday afternoon that one of the part-time library assistants on the youth side has resigned. It was a part-time person filling in a full-time role because we weren't able to fill it as a full-time person. But I don't know if you've heard, the schools here are losing about 60 teachers this year. And so they're desperate and are recruiting wherever they can. And this person was a retired teacher and he has been invited back and has agreed to go back. So he will be leaving us at the end of this month. And so we will be starting recruitment for possibly what would be a full-time position this time around. So just when we thought we were sort of okay. Also in the director's report was some information about our participation in the county's emergency operations plan. They are developing a new plan for the county, and the library plays 3 active roles should there be any significant emergency in our county. And those roles are outlined in the report. And a couple of other things, I guess, the farmers market. Every year, the farmers market invites nonprofits to host a Saturday and have their services highlighted. The library applied last year and didn't get approved, but this year, the foundation, friends, and library applied together, and we were awarded Saturday, July 16th as a day at the farmers market. So Diana, Lori, and I will all be at the farmers market that day. So come down and see us. We'll be pushing people to do the survey, the community survey. And then that leads into the strategic planning update. The community survey is now live. I checked last night before I left work. We're up to about 330 surveys completed, and management team earlier this week discussed places in town and across the county where we can solicit people to complete the survey. And we are working on that list, contacting the people on the list to see if it's okay for us to be present. And we will probably start that in the next few days, I hope. So if you all are interested in having an assignment to go and collect surveys, please let us know and we'll get you a job. And that's about all that's in the director's report.
Are there any questions for Kip?
I have a question.
Yes, Grace.
Kip, easy question. Who prepares the digital Hoopla, Overdrive, Canopy. Who, is that a Susan Centrella input to you?
That is a Susan Centrella input.
Well, I just want to give her and you kudos. These reports are so useful to me. They're concise, informative, they give needed info. It's amazing how much she packs into that little piece of your report. And I just can't tell you how helpful that information is on a subject that looks pretty stable in general. But I wanted to just thank you for that. And also, I wanted to input that it seems to me that the director's reports get better every month, that you've just done continual improvement on the director reports. The
Thank you.
content is wonderful, and I want to thank you for all that.
Thank you. I will share your comments with Susan as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Kip. Appreciate it. Things seem to be going busily well, which is great.
Sort of.
So let's move on. Foundation is, do we have Diana on board?
We don't have Diana. Instead, you have me. This is Amy Steer,
Hey.
president of the foundation. I'm standing in for Diana today. She's sorry she couldn't be with you. And the only thing I have to add to her written report is to just let you all know that the foundation received a gift on behalf of the library board in honor of Dale and Grace's service. So thank you, Dale and Grace from the foundation, for your amazing service these past years. And thank you, library board, for the gift in honor of them.
Well deserved.
That was nice.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Wow.
And since you brought it up, I'll continue with it and say that I had thought perhaps this meeting might have been in person, so Kip has got a little something from me to you two, but we'll get it in the mail instead.
We have the cards from Peter, and we also have a gift for each of you on behalf of the board as well. So stop by my office and I'll give them to you if you like.
Anyway, it's been I'm sorry, I was going to bring this up during other matters, but Amy did a great job of bringing it up. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with both of you all, and I think we've gotten the library in, you are leaving it with the library in a very strong position, and much of that is thanks to your all very good work. And I am so happy that Kip has twisted Grace's arm to stay involved with strategic planning for a little while to see that end project through, which is a lot of work. But that's wonderful. And thank you so much for being our partners in this wonderful institution. And you'll be missed.
Thank you.
But not forgotten. And I hope both of you all stay involved with the library. I know you're passionate about it, so I assume you will.
Peter, we should also take a minute to thank Amy for her service, since she is leaving, I think, at the end of this month, and has done more years than all of us combined, I think, for the foundation. And I think I know some of those years have been tumultuous and exciting, and required probably way too much time for a position like that. So I think we all should give Amy a huge thank you for her and her service to the foundation. And I hope she enjoys a nice break from that work. So
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up, Nina. And Amy, thank you for all the work that you've done.
And Maggie.
Yep.
Maggie, and there was one other name that's escaping me right now too.
Mrs. Young.
Well, thank you all. It has been my pleasure, and I leave the foundation with an excellent board and an excellent ED. So They too are in really good shape going forward.
Well, Amy, you're my hero in creating sabbaticals because I have told a lot of people about your January at the ranch, and I think that's a marvelous way of doing things. So it wasn't actually a sabbatical; you were doing work, but it was wonderful. So you're an inspiration. Let's move on to the Friends report.
May I, before we leave the foundation,
Yes, ma'am.
and Amy, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you know the answer, or maybe it's a Kip answer. Thank you for the information on the programs. The program information, that's wonderful information to understand what's happening. My question is, who manages those projects? Does that report back completion of the programs, the projects that you're funding? Is that managed by KIP or is that managed by the foundation?
I'm going to have Kip be the first person to answer this, and then I can certainly chime in, but I think he probably knows the day-to-day better than I do.
So to answer your question, Grace, the library and the spenders, which are the programmers, managers, put together a budget request for the foundation with project ideas, new initiatives. That gets presented to the foundation. And then once the foundation approves those funds, the spenders spend all of those funds, implementing the projects, buying the books, whatever the project might be. The foundation manages the actual expenditures. They pay the bills. So we submit the bills to the foundation and they pay them.
How does status and progress in the programs get managed? Is it just part of your day-to-day library management, Kip?
Yes, and then the foundation provides us with quarterly reports as to where the books stand on their spending. So each project manager knows how much they have to spend for their specific project, and they can keep track of that. And then the foundation keeps formal track of that and will give us quarterly updates.
Okay, and then the aside from the budget aspects of it, the completion of the intent of the project, that's just part of your daily management then?
Yes, we do make, we have sort of formalized some of the reporting to the foundation. We have, at the same time we get quarterly budget updates, we have been having quarterly meetings with the foundation to talk, for the spenders to give updates on where they are in their projects. And we're also looking at sort of further formalizing it where there will be some sort of written report about outcomes of the spending, what was achieved, what goals were met, and what the end result was. We haven't really ever reported that to the foundation, and that will help with their donors.
Good. Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
So I see that the Adlers are on. Virginia or Mike, are you doing the Friends report?
This is Mike Adler. I'm doing the Friends report.
Wonderful.
Sitting in for Lori. Yeah, so the summer activities of the Friends were fairly active. One thing that's on the agenda is we're planning a staff appreciation on August 10th. This is the second one. We did one earlier, and this is the second one of, I think, 3 overall. We're also, other activities involve the Sproutmobile, which we manage, and it apparently goes to parks Monday through Friday, where volunteers are there, books are available, and lunch for children are dispensed to those that who come to the parks. And in addition, we're continuing to move along with our little free library activities with a new one that's going to go into place at Hungry Jack's in Wilson. And so that's pretty much what's happening. And I'll take any questions, but if I'm not sure I'll be able to answer them, but I'll try if there are any questions.
Mike, you have a couple of new board members as well. You've been pretty successful in recruiting. Are you still looking for board members?
Yes, we are, and I think Virginia has been doing that, and she's been very successful. I'm one of them. I've been on the board for about a year or so, but there was 3 of us who joined at about the same time.
Thank you.
And yeah, and
Are there other questions for Mike? Thanks, Mike. Appreciate
fair enough.
it. Moving on. Staff report, the active shooter training. Kip, could you give a little background, please?
Sure. I don't know how much background it needs.
No,
You're certainly aware of the situation across the country with all the mass shootings. It has been a training that I've wanted to provide to staff since I arrived. We have been doing a really basic short overview with new staff of some of the basics, but we haven't done an all staff training. And it's certainly, I think, a very important training for staff to have. We reached out to the sheriff's department. They do provide this training. So we are working with them to come up with what our training will look like. There are some training options that include real weapons, not real bullets, but the real sound effects. And we have opted not to go that route. Some of us have been through those and don't really find those very comforting. It doesn't help you learn or retain anything. So we are looking at doing the training on Wednesday, July 20th. It is about a 2-hour training. And we are planning to start at 8:30, which would take us to 10:30. That gives staff some time to recover, process what they've learned, and to reopen the library or to open the library. So we are asking for a delayed opening on that day for 11 a.m. from the board.
Okay. Let's do Robert's rules here. I move to delay the opening of the library from 9 to 11 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, July 20th for active shooter training. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dale. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Please.
Just as a point of information, the library has done this in the past. We did it for a number of years. We did it every year. One of the things, I don't know what the sheriff department is doing right now, although I'm sure it's, a step above probably what we were doing. But one of the things we did do was we used volunteers. We would get some of the friends to come in and be library patrons. And we found out a lot of information doing that because library patrons don't know the same things that staff does. And we found out certain areas of the building, certain patrons, particularly older ones, couldn't hear the alarms, couldn't hear any of it, so particularly if they were in a closed study room. So there is an advantage, I think, to actually having some folks that aren't staff members participate if you get the opportunity. And I certainly don't want to get crossways with the sheriff's department. So anything they're doing, I'm sure is fine, but I would just put that in there that it was very educational to have regular library patrons involved in these kinds of exercises because we learned a lot.
Thanks, Dale. Stella and Rick and I are doing this planning, so we'll discuss that as a possibility. We'll see what the sheriff's department thinks. That does sound like a good idea, possibly.
Are there, yes, Grace?
I recognize that we're only approving, closing the library for the training, but Kip, I wonder if there doesn't need to be a policy developed that picks up some of these emergency things that you're dealing with. In your library policies, is that something that belongs in policies? I'm just thinking something that identifies who the focal points are and somehow points to the process.
Are you talking about normalizing the putting a schedule of the annual trainings that the staff would go through? I'm not sure I understand, Grace, what you're asking.
Well, I'm not sure either. I guess I'm just asking that maybe you all consider something, a policy that somehow pulls this active shooter training together, the what is it, COOP training, that identifies who the people in charge are. Is it a policy thing that needs to be out there that people understand what the active shooter response should be?
Well,
That kind of thing.
Oh, Abigail would like to say something.
Identifying particular people might be fine, but you don't want to go into too much detail on a public document about what the library's response to an active shooter is going to be. That an active shooter could go read in advance.
Oh, okay, enough said, maybe.
That's just my thought.
Okay.
In
And I think it's more operational, quite frankly.
in doing
Yeah.
in doing some research earlier this week, I came across a few libraries that did have actual active shooter policies. I thought it was rather strange. I would agree with what Abigail just said. I do think it needs to be part of our emergency procedures handbook that would lay that all out and explain it. But I think it's an internal operations document, not a policy.
Okay, that I just thought it belonged somewhere besides yeah, that's all I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay. Well, so we have a motion on the table. We've had discussion. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to delay the opening on Wednesday, July 20th, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving forward, the board reports, training subcommittee. Oh, sorry,
Oh,
excuse
no.
me. I skipped over the amendment to the Teton County Library Board of bylaws. So this is what's been on our agenda for the last 3 months, and we finally have had the requisite 30 days pass. So I will move to pass the amendment to the Teton County Library Board bylaws resolution effective June 16th, 2022, as presented several times in the last 3 months. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Sean. Discussion. Lovely. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Peter and Dale, I will have a copy of the resolution here in my office for you to sign when you are back visiting the library.
I will be
Okay.
back in town during working hours on Tuesday, so it'll. Thank you for doing that. I think the future boards will like the flexibility of what we've just done. Board reports, the training subcommittee, the DEI training plan was attached in the Dropbox files. Dale, would you like to say anything about it at all?
No, I think you and I had talked and we felt like everybody could read it and just give them an example and going forward, the intent is to, do more trainings and be consistently in step with the staff as much as is appropriate for us, so that we're all dealing with the same issues and the same language and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, I want to thank you personally for all the effort and leadership you've done in this area. This has been very helpful to me individually, and hopefully it's been helpful to others on the board. And I think it will be very invaluable for future boards to have this as part of our regular board responsibilities and training. So thank you.
Thank you.
The board officer election process, that sounds like Grace.
And I don't think it needs much explanation or discussion. This process is what we've used more or less for the last 3 years. And it is based on Robert's Rules of Order. All we did was capture the things that mostly pertain to our process. So I think it's pretty straightforward. It's just to make sure that every year you don't have to go back and revisit what are the rules of doing this and how do we approach doing it. So if everyone agrees with it, I would propose that we add this to our TCL board governance processes as another way that we perform our job. Is there any discussion or anything?
Are you asking for a motion? I don't think we need to move this, do we?
No, I think it just needs agreement, and if anyone objects or.
I'm happy with it. I think it reflects what we've tried to do. So we're going to have a little bit of a challenge in July because one of our new board members is on a long planned sabbatical. So, but she will find out what officer role she's going to play after the fact.
Never miss a meeting.
That's right. Well, I did speak with her yesterday, but I'll talk about that in other matters for a second. Well, thank you, Grace. And I know Dale has also helped in this as well. So thank you guys very much. Housing Task Force, Nina.
Actually,
Yep. Sorry.
No, well, Nina unfortunately missed the last meeting. So, and I don't think you want to hear me keep talking. So I asked the chair of the Housing Task Force Committee, Joe Gagnon, to come in, and he's been doing a fantastic job. So he's going to talk about what the task force is doing.
Hi, everyone. So Kip introduced me. I'm Joe Gagnon, Housing Task Force Chair. I hope everyone can hear me. We're having because first off, I just wanted to thank all of you for your support, for supporting this task force. And, we're very grateful that you are allowing us to do this work. We're also very grateful to the foundation for both their interest in donating Maggie and Diana's time to us. And we also have a significant development. One Library Foundation board member, Wendy Martinez, is now attending our meetings. She's been great so far. She's got some really good experience with housing. She's the homeowner services manager at Habitat. So she's definitely come in and given us some great info. So we're very pleased to have her join us as well. We've kind of moved past our information gathering stage. So now we're kind of working on our priorities and kind of what work we need to do and strategies for that. Our first priority has been, we decided to educate our staff. It's kind of like a short-term easy goal. I shouldn't say easy, but attainable goal within the next few months of just educating our staff on all the resources that are available to them currently through, our third party, county, affordable housing, Jacksonville Land Trust, Habitat for Humanity, all of those. So we want to make sure that our staff are well aware of those and have the resources that they need to apply for all that. And then we're kind of working on documents to kind of give a quick glance, like if you're interested in home ownership, these are the ones you should go to. If you're just interested in renting, these are the ones you should go to. And we're hoping to have make those resources also available countywide if other departments are interested in them, and then possibly even to the community as a whole. So I think starting this work as just library specific has kind of grown, and I think it'll be very beneficial to the community as a whole. Secondly, we've kind of been evaluating the current foundation support that they've offered. We've found that it's been very successful and very useful. And so, but we've also found that there could be some efficiencies within the application process. So we've changed some of those. So that's been very beneficial, and it should be easier for staff to apply for that. So we're very happy about that work that's been done already. And then finally, we're working on kind of a bigger case statement to bring to the foundation board, just kind of the why we need the support and what we think would be most helpful with what support would be most helpful for the library. And that's where we are in a nutshell. We also are kind of working on some longer term goals, but those are pretty far out and possibly will be intermixed into strategic planning and such as that. So I shouldn't get into those just yet.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for Joe, Kip, or at this point? Thank you.
Thank you.
The BOCC quarterly report, Kip and I made it there in time. I think we were on at about 9:10 or so, and we were off by about 9:15 and had nothing but compliments from the commissioners. There were very few. There was one question about one of the items that we presented, but the document that they received, basically I went through very briefly the bullet points, and I had thought to ask whether they wanted to try and reduce the numbers because they have not had really questions for us, but I thought better of it because I think it's pretty easy in writing a page or a page and a half of the operations to them, and I think they appreciate the quarterly updates. So until further notice, we're going to continue. I think the sentiment is to continue writing quarterly reports to them.
And your September or your next report, Peter, is a performance report. Remember that once a year, one of those quarterly reports is a performance, the library performance, and the others are just status.
I have not forgotten, Grace, but thank you for the reminder.
Sorry.
Does anybody have any questions on that? Let me take a second to then talk about the tri-board meeting. We had the library board went through, and Kip did, the strategic planning process where we were, our budget that we submitted to the county, and the brief discussion on the housing task force work. The foundation talked about their annual reporting process, the development of their annual report, and some of the, I think Diana was going to take some time to get her feet planted solidly at the foundation before she decides if she's going to have a Maggie equivalent coming in. And then on the Friends, they talked about their board and their volunteers, and it was we talked as a group about how are things functioning and sort of how are people liking these meetings and the informal nature, and they have stayed as informal. And I think it's a general consensus that keeping us in this type of communication has been working very well. And I think the strong sentiment is to continue to do this on a quarterly basis informally. Kip, would you add anything to that?
No, I think the Friends did talk about their sponsorship of all the library's book groups starting in the fall. I think they're very proud of that. And they'll be supporting 4 book groups that the library runs by buying all the books for those clubs or those groups. So,
And I was remiss. Grace actually was able to talk through with the foundation and the Friends and us. She reviewed FIDA's statistics for this past year and talked about plans for this upcoming year and a lot of the transitions that are going to go on, hopefully within FIDA. Sorry, Grace, I didn't mean to overlook that. Okay, if there aren't any other questions on the tri-board. Are there other matters from board members, library staff, and supporting organizations? I have one, but anybody else?
I have one.
Go ahead, Kip.
Tomorrow from 12 to 2 in the Ordway Auditorium is our volunteer appreciation party. So if any board members are available tomorrow between 12 and 2, it would be a great opportunity to stop in, meet our volunteers, thank them for all of their hard work, and enjoy some treats with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I can't make it.
Do you mind if I share one, Peter?
Please.
Hi, I'm Lauren Dickey from the foundation board, and I've met a few of you, but because of COVID, most of you not in person, but I'm glad to be here. We just did our budget review at our last meeting, and I just wanted to share that we were also excited to see a lot of the new initiatives that you have coming through, and like just looking at the budget, Diana did an incredible job of organizing it with like each line a great description. I know she was thinking about sharing that with you, but I know for us, it just got us really excited about the next year. And so just wanted to say thank you guys for inspiring your staff and bringing forward some great things for the next year.
And thank you, Lauren, you and your board for all the wonderful work together with us. So it's lovely. Mine was talking about the July meeting for a number of reasons, which are just, I mean, I apologize. We have had a backup of cancellations due to COVID that have come back open. So I am going to be out of the country on a trip that is a lose it or use it. So I am not going to be at the meeting in July. One of our new board members, Lisa, what's her last name? I'm sorry.
McGee.
Yep, McGee. Is also going to be on sabbatical, which leaves a quorum of 3. And I'm hoping that I can prevail upon Sean and Nina to work together to actually act as in my place and run the meeting. There are lots of important things going on in that meeting. The 2 most important from my perspective on board matters are assignment of officers for this upcoming year, and which we've talked about a little bit in terms of just the process, and as well as setting the number of meeting dates and times for the upcoming year. I'm going to reach out I'll be back in town next week, and hopefully I can sit down with either both Nina and Sean together or individually, and we can sort of strategize about the meeting a little bit.
Peter, maybe you'd want to announce our new board members.
Yes, and I'm going to do a bad job on last names because I don't know them. I talked to both Lisa. I talked to Lisa yesterday. Lisa runs the Wyoming Outdoor. Oh boy, it's a nonprofit. She's a lawyer.
Wyoming Outdoor Council. She's the executive director.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And she's trained as a lawyer and has been a treasurer of various nonprofits as both as a board member and as a staff member. And Steiner has a academic background and has been very involved in the library world, both in his professional and his retirement career. In fact, he is out of town this week at a National Library set of meetings. Extensive history in academia and in the library world, and is going to be an invaluable member of this board. Both of them will be, and very interested in coming in. I'm trying to meet them. Well, I've spoken with Lisa briefly, and I'm trying to sit down with Stan next week to actually not have to fumble around with their background. For anybody who happens to be, I guess we have all inside, maybe we don't. Their CVs are up on the county website, and I will circulate them around to the entire board, and they should be able to be circulated to staff too if they're interested. Yes, Grace.
This seems like a good time to talk about the fact that Dale and I have been talking about onboarding the new directors. And we volunteered to make sure that things were in place to do that. I'll just start briefly with, we sent out the handbook, the Teton County Library member handbook, and have gone through it and looked for what we need to update, and it looks pretty good. It's in pretty good shape. We'll add the elections process to the board governance, do some updates, and that will be ready for the new board members to have access to all the documents that they might need to get them on board. And also it's there for all of your use. I would like to add back into that list of documents on the handbook, the IT agreement with the county. That dropped off. We used to have it there, and it's one of the most significant agreements we have with the county. It has become increasingly technical in its nature, but I think board members just need to be aware that we share that responsibility and that division with the county. So I'd propose we put that back in as a link, and otherwise just updates. So that takes care of does anyone have any comment on adding the IT agreement?
No.
Back in. I just think it's pertinent, it's helpful. It's we'll get those updated, and then Dale has a further proposal for orienting the new directors.
And I did send it around. I'm just and we've talked about this before, doing a more personal on-site introduction to the board members. Sooner is better. I would do it, within their certainly within the first month of their tenure. And I think there are all kinds of advantages. You'll see, Sean, I just volunteered you to participate because we didn't do it for you. So a bit of catch up there, but I think you probably more than the rest of the board members understand how important it is, even though you had an advantage because you had extra library knowledge. But I think it's very important to start out on a personal basis. I think we've all learned during the coronavirus that it's very hard to establish a camaraderie on Zoom. I mean, it's great in certain kinds of ways, but it leaves a lot to be desired. And you don't have the informal give and take that we manage to have when we are actually able to get together. So that I think it's really important to start this way. And I did do a little short course of suggestions. And Kip, I totally leave this in your hands. I know you're absolutely more than able to do this in a way that will be meaningful and helpful to the new board members.
My plan is, Dale, to meet with them as soon as possible. Lisa is stopping by this morning just to say hi, and then she's going away for 2 months. So her orientation may be a bit delayed. I've talked to Stan. He's away for the next couple of weeks, but we'll stop in as soon as he can. And so I'll work with Stella, and we'll get something in place for the 2 new ones and for Sean.
We can get to that whenever, sometime down the road.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you guys for doing this. It's critical, and so I really appreciate it. And
Kip, I'll work with Stella to get the handbook updated online. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
And the bylaws need to be updated.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
right. All right. Moving forward, Sean, payment of library vouchers.
Yeah, I have reviewed and signed the vouchers. Everything looks good, and I would move to approve the library vouchers.
I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? I didn't ask for questions, I guess, but I assume we don't have questions for Sean. Any opposed? No. Motion's approved. I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:39. Wow. Do I have that motion?
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Dale. Grace, would you like your last thing to be seconding? that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Beautiful. Any discussion?
I would just like to apologize. Owl and Zoom are not talking very well today, so there's been no video on our end. And so we'll work on that again.
All right. Thank you so much. Hopefully we can be in person, and it'll make things a little bit easier. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you all very much for motion carries.
Bye.